I watched my mother press her lips against my husband's mouth at my own dinner table, surrounded by 12 witnesses, and the only sound I could hear was my daughter asking if Grandma was sick. She wasn't sick. She was deliberate. My name is Sarah and I'm 34 years old. Until 3 months ago, I thought I knew exactly who I was. A devoted wife, a protective mother, and the daughter who sacrificed everything to keep her single mom afloat. I was wrong about all of it. Let me start where it actually begins. Not with that kiss, but with the phone call that came 6 weeks earlier. I was folding laundry in our bedroom when my mother called, crying so hard I could barely understand her words. "They're going to evict me," she sobbed. "Sarah, I don't know what to do. I'm so sorry." I'm so sorry. This wasn't the first financial crisis. There had been dozens over the years. My mother, Linda, had been raising me alone since I was 3 when my father walked out and never came back. She worked multiple jobs, sacrificed her own needs, and gave me everything she could. I grew up watching her struggle, watching her cry over bills, watching her smile through exhaustion. So when she needed help, I helped. Always. I convinced my husband, Daniel, that we should let her move in temporarily. He hesitated, and I remember the exact look on his face, concern mixed with something else I couldn't quite name. But he agreed because he loved me, or so I believed. "Just until she gets back on her feet," he said, kissing my forehead. Family comes first. My mother moved into our guest room on a Saturday in late September. She arrived with 3 suitcases and a grateful smile that made my chest ache. Our daughter Emma was thrilled to have Grandma living with us. She was only 7, and in her world, this was an extended sleepover with her favorite person. The first week was wonderful. Mom cooked dinner every night, helped Emma with homework, and cleaned the house until it sparkled. She seemed genuinely happy, lighter somehow, as if the weight of her financial stress had finally lifted. Daniel worked long hours as a software engineer, often coming home after Emma's bedtime. But during that first week, I noticed he started coming home earlier. He'd walk through the door at 6 instead of 8, claiming he'd wrapped up his projects ahead of schedule. "Just wanted more family time," he'd say, ruffling Emma's hair. I was grateful, I was happy, I was blind. The second week, I noticed small things. The way my mother laughed at Marcus's jokes, loud, performative, touching his arm. The way she changed her appearance, wearing makeup around the house, styling her hair even though we weren't going anywhere. She was 49 but could easily pass for 40, and suddenly she seemed very aware of that fact. I pushed the thoughts away. I was being paranoid, seeing shadows where there was only light. This was my mother, the woman who'd sacrificed everything for me. And Daniel, the man I'd been married to for 9 years, the father of my child. The third week, Daniel started suggesting we go out more as a family, but he meant the 4 of us, always including my mother. Movie nights became the norm, and I'd watch from the corner of my eye as he'd pass the popcorn to her first, as their hands would brush, as she'd lean into him when she laughed. "You're lucky to have such a thoughtful husband," she told me one afternoon while we were alone in the kitchen. Not many men would be so welcoming. The way she said welcoming made my skin crawl. I started testing them in small ways. I'd leave the room and double back, hoping to catch what, nothing. I'd find them chatting normally, acting perfectly appropriate. I felt insane, like I was manufacturing a problem that didn't exist. But then came the touches. I noticed during week 4. My mother would touch Daniel's shoulder when she passed behind his chair. She'd straighten his collar when we were getting ready to leave the house. She'd brush lint off his sweater with a familiarity that felt wrong, too intimate, too comfortable. And Daniel? He didn't pull away. He didn't seem uncomfortable. He smiled. I confronted him one night after Emma was asleep. We were in our bathroom, and I was shaking as I asked, "Do you think my mom is being inappropriate with you?" He looked genuinely confused. "What?" "No, Sarah. She's just grateful we're helping her." "You're reading too much into it. She touches you constantly. She's affectionate." "Some people are just like that." He pulled me close, wrapping his arms around me. "You're stressed. Your mom moving in has been a big adjustment, but everything's fine." I promise. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly. Week 5 brought the compliments. My mother would comment on Daniel's shirts, his cologne, his new haircut. She'd tell him how funny he was, how smart, how patient. She'd say these things in front of me as if that made them innocent. Meanwhile, the compliments she gave me dwindled. Where she used to praise my cooking or my parenting, now there was only silence or subtle criticism. You look tired, honey. Maybe you should try that new eye cream I told you about. Are you sure you want seconds? You've been complaining about your jeans fitting tight. Emma's teacher mentioned she's been struggling with math. Have you been checking her homework? Each comment was a small knife, barely noticeable on its own, but collectively they were bleeding me out. I started documenting everything in my phone. Times, dates, specific interactions. I felt crazy doing it, like I was some paranoid detective in my own home. But something deep in my gut told me to pay attention, to remember. Week 6, I came home early from a dentist appointment. I told them I'd be gone until 3, but I finished at 1:30. I walked into my house and heard laughter coming from the living room. I stood in the hallway, just out of sight, and watched through the gap in the doorway. My mother was sitting next to Daniel on the couch, not close enough to be obvious, but closer than necessary. She had her hand on his knee, and they were looking at something on his phone, their heads nearly touching. "You're terrible," she was saying, giggling like a teenager. "Daniel, stop. You're making me laugh too hard." He was grinning, completely engaged, more animated than I'd seen him in months. The way he looked at her, attentive, present, alive, made something inside me crack. I cleared my throat and walked in. They jumped apart like I'd fired a gun. "Sarah!" My mother's hand flew to her chest. "You scared us. I thought you'd be gone longer." "Dentist was quick," I said, watching them both carefully. "What are you looking at?" "Just funny videos," Daniel said, pocketing his phone too quickly. "Your mom was showing me some cooking channel she likes." The lie was smooth, practiced. That's what terrified me most. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay next to Daniel, listening to him breathe, wondering if I was losing my mind or if I was finally seeing clearly. At 3 in the morning, I got up and checked his phone while he slept. He deleted his text history with my mother, completely wiped. But his cloud backup still had some messages from 2 weeks prior, before he'd apparently learned to be more careful. "You're so easy to talk to. I wish Sarah appreciated you more. Sometimes, I wonder what my life would have been like if I'd met someone like you earlier. You make me feel young again." His responses were careful, never crossing a clear line, but encouraging enough to keep her going. He was playing a game, seeing how far things could go without technically being unfaithful. Or maybe they'd already crossed that line, and these messages were just the visible tip of something darker beneath. I didn't confront them. Instead, I planned. I scheduled a dinner party for the following Friday, my birthday, though I didn't mention that detail when I invited our friends and neighbors. 12 people total, including Marcus's brother and his wife, my best friend Rachel, and several couples from our street. "A dinner party?" Daniel seemed surprised when I told him. "That's not really your thing." "I want to celebrate having Mom here," I said, smiling sweetly. "And it's been too long since we've entertained." My mother loved the idea. She immediately began planning the menu, taking over my kitchen like she owned it. She bought a new dress for the occasion, red, form-fitting, utterly inappropriate for a family dinner party. The week before the party, I contacted a lawyer. I explained everything, showed her my documentation, and asked what my options were. She was kind but realistic. Without concrete evidence of an affair, you're looking at a standard divorce. Your mother living in the house complicates things, but since it's your house, your name is the only one on the deed, correct? You have the right to ask her to leave. It's my house, I confirmed. I inherited it from my grandmother. Daniel never wanted his name added to the deed. Now I knew why. He'd always been planning his exit strategy. Friday arrived. I spent the day cooking alongside my mother, watching her hum as she worked, occasionally checking her reflection in the microwave door. She was preparing for something. I could feel it. Daniel came home at 5, unusually early, and immediately showered and changed. He wore the navy shirt my mother had complimented 3 times. Cologne, the one she'd said she loved. He was dressing for her. Guests started arriving at 6:30. I played the perfect hostess, smiling, laughing, making sure everyone had drinks and appetizers. Emma was having dinner at Rachel's house with her kids, so it was just adults exactly as I'd planned. Dinner was beautiful. My mother had outdone herself, and compliments flowed around the table. She was glowing, holding court, telling stories that made everyone laugh. Daniel watched her with undisguised admiration. I watched them both. After dinner, while I was serving dessert, my mother stood up with her wine glass. "I want to make a toast," she announced, slightly tipsy. "To my wonderful daughter who opened her home to me when I needed it most. And to my amazing son-in-law, who's been so incredibly welcoming and kind." There was that word again, welcoming. "Daniel," she continued, moving toward him. "You've been such a light in my life these past weeks. I don't know what I would have done without your support, your humor, your warmth." She was standing next to his chair now, and I saw it before it happened. I saw the decision form in her eyes, the wine courage taking over, the complete lack of boundaries finally, catastrophically, revealing itself. She leaned down and kissed him. Not on the cheek, on the mouth. Fully, deliberately, in front of 12 witnesses. The room went silent. Someone gasped, I think it was Rachel. Daniel froze for just a second before pulling back, but it was enough. The damage was done. Emma's voice from the doorway shattered the moment. "Mommy? Is Grandma sick?" Rachel had brought her home early. My 7-year-old daughter had just watched her grandmother kiss her father. I stood slowly, calmly, like I was moving through water. I looked at my mother, who was already starting to stammer excuses, her face flushing with embarrassment and wine. I looked at Daniel, who looked genuinely shocked, though I couldn't tell if he was shocked by the kiss or by being caught. Then I looked at my daughter, her confused, innocent face, and something inside me crystallized into perfect, cold clarity. "Emma, sweetheart," I said gently, "Grandma isn't sick. She just made a very big mistake. Can you go upstairs to your room for a few minutes? Mommy needs to talk to the grown-ups." Rachel immediately moved to Emma, guiding her upstairs. The other guests sat frozen, unsure whether to leave or stay. I turned to my mother and husband. When I spoke, my voice was steady, quiet, and absolutely final. "You both have 24 hours to leave this house." "Sarah," my mother started. "No." I held up my hand. "You don't get to speak right now. You don't get to explain or apologize or justify. You kissed my husband, in my house, at my dinner party." "In front of my daughter. It was the wine. I didn't mean—" "You meant it," I said. "You've been meaning it for 6 weeks. The touches, the compliments, the way you dress for him, the way you laugh at everything he says. I've watched you seduce my husband in my own home, and I gave you the benefit of the doubt because you're my mother. Because I thought surely there was a line you wouldn't cross." I turned to Daniel. "And you encouraged her. You let her touch you, flirt with you, text you things that no mother should say to her daughter's husband. You deleted your messages, but I saw them. I saw enough." His face went pale. "Sarah, I never touched her. I never—" "You did something worse," I interrupted. "You entertained it. You played with it. You kept secrets and deleted evidence and made me feel crazy for noticing what was right in front of my face. Maybe you didn't technically cheat, but you betrayed me in every other way that matters." My mother was crying now, mascara running down her face. "Please, Sarah. I have nowhere to go. I'll do anything. You'll leave," I said firmly. "Both of you. You have until tomorrow evening to pack your things and get out. This is my house. My grandmother left it to me. And I will not raise my daughter in a home contaminated by this. Whatever this is." "Think about Emma," Daniel said desperately. "You can't just throw me out." "I'm her father. Emma saw her grandmother kiss her father tonight. She's going to need therapy because of what you both did. Yes, you're her father, and you can see her with proper custody arrangements through lawyers. But you will not live here anymore." I looked around at our guests, all of them witnesses. "I'm sorry you had to see this. I think it's best if everyone goes home now." They left quickly, murmuring awkward goodbyes. Rachel stayed behind, helping me usher Emma into bed with promises that everything would be okay, that grown-ups sometimes make mistakes, that none of this was her fault. After Emma finally fell asleep, Rachel hugged me tightly. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered. "That took incredible strength." "I don't feel strong," I admitted. "I feel destroyed." "You will be strong," she said. "You already are." The next 24 hours were surreal. My mother packed her things in silence, occasionally trying to apologize, but I wouldn't engage. Daniel tried multiple times to talk, to explain, to negotiate. "I never slept with her," he kept saying. "Sarah, please, you have to believe me." I don't have to believe anything," I replied. "And honestly, it doesn't matter. What you did was enough." He left Saturday evening, moving in with his brother. My mother went to stay with a friend she'd reconnected with, someone I'd never heard her mention before. Probably because she'd been too busy focusing all her energy on destroying my marriage. The next few weeks were brutal. Emma cried every night, asking when Daddy was coming home, why Grandma had to leave. I was honest with her in age-appropriate ways. Sometimes grown-ups hurt each other, and when that happens, they need space to figure things out. Daniel filed for divorce first, trying to claim I'd abandoned the marriage by forcing him out. My lawyer crushed that argument with witness testimony from the dinner party. 12 people had seen what happened. 12 people could testify to the inappropriate relationship that had been developing. My mother tried to call me 17 times in the first week. I blocked her number. She sent letters, long, rambling explanations about how lonely she'd been, how Daniel had made her feel special, how she'd never meant to hurt me. She blamed the wine, her age, her desperation for male attention after years alone. I burned the letters without reading past the first few lines. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. Daniel got partial custody, every other weekend and one evening per week. The arrangement broke Emma's heart, and mine. But it was better than the alternative. Staying in a poisoned marriage and teaching my daughter that betrayal should be tolerated. The biggest surprise came during the asset division. My lawyer discovered that Daniel had been siphoning money from our joint account into a separate savings account for over a year long before my mother moved in. He'd been planning his exit, preparing his escape fund, while I'd been faithfully paying our bills and raising our daughter. The affair with my mother, or whatever it was, had simply been an opportunity, not a cause. He'd been looking for a way out, and she'd handed him the perfect excuse to play the victim. "Your wife is crazy. She threw me out over nothing," he could say. Except there were 12 witnesses who'd seen that kiss, who'd watched the performance, who knew better. Now, 3 months later, I'm sitting in my quiet house after putting Emma to bed. She's adjusting, slowly. She sees her father regularly, and they're rebuilding their relationship. But she hasn't asked about Grandma in weeks. My mother sent one final letter last week. I almost threw it away, but something made me open it. Inside was a single sentence. "I'm sorry I became the monster my own loneliness created." It was the first thing she'd written that felt true. I don't forgive her. I may never forgive her. But I understand now that hurt people, and my mother had been hurting for longer than I'd realized. She'd spent 30 years raising me alone, sacrificing her own needs, watching other women have the partners and families she'd never secured. And when she saw what I had, a husband, a home, stability, she wanted it for herself. It doesn't excuse what she did, but it explains it. As for Daniel, I see him now for what he always was, a man who kept his options open, who never fully committed, who maintained plausible deniability while entertaining other possibilities. My mother was just the one who got caught. There had probably been others, or there would have been eventually. I'm not grateful for what happened, but I'm grateful I saw it, that I trusted my instincts, that I had the courage to say enough. My daughter is asleep upstairs, safe in a home that's no longer filled with secrets and lies. My mother is gone, working through her own demons somewhere else. My husband is an ex-husband, visiting on weekends, present but no longer pretending. And me? I'm learning how to be Sarah again, not someone's daughter, not someone's wife, but myself. It's terrifying and lonely, and sometimes I cry so hard I think I might break in half. But I'm free. That kiss at my dinner table destroyed everything I thought I knew about my life. It shattered my family, broke my daughter's heart, and revealed betrayals I'd been blind to for years. But it also saved me because now I know what I'm worth. Now I know what I deserve. And I know that I'm strong enough to stand alone, to protect my daughter, to rebuild from the ashes of everything that burned down. My mother kissed my husband in front of everyone. I breathed, and I said they both had 24 hours to leave my house. It was the hardest and most necessary thing I've ever done. And I would do it again.